Many things that we do in our life are ordinary. In fact, the lives of most people aren't that entertaining or surprising. Sometimes, however, the ordinary, common things done by people turn into huge disasters. And here are 10 of those instances. Number 10, releasing balloons into the air. On the morning of September 27th, 1986, more than 2,000 volunteers filled 1.5 million balloons before releasing them. This event was for charity, but unfortunately it did not work the way they wanted it to. The weather was poor that day by the rain, which forced the balloons down instead of up. First, the balloons temporarily shut down the runway at a nearby airport. Also, the balloons temporarily interrupted the Coast Guard's attempts to find two fishermen whose boat capsized. Unfortunately, this may have contributed to the drowning of the two men. A widow of one of the two men sued the charity, and it was settled out of court. The cremation of corpses is an everyday occurrence and usually doesn't cause much of a problem. However, human fat is extremely combustible in sufficient quantities, and it can burn so hot that cremation cannot handle it. A large amount of soot released by the burning corpse blocked the air filters, causing the furnace to overheat. The crematorium nearly burned down before firemen managed to extinguish the blaze. However, the crematorium was still covered in a layer of soot greasy from the burning corpse. With the world not getting any skinnier, this issue has become increasingly big. No pun intended. Although crematorium sizes have expanded to accommodate larger corpses, the rate of expansion may not be enough to catch up with the people's ever-expanding waistlines. Number 8. Using bug bombs. When a woman found her apartment infested with bugs in 2012, she did what any person would have done and tried to use bug bombs to smoke them out. But she overdid it, using 20 bug bombs in one room of her apartment, and then another 20 bug bombs in the other room. Unfortunately, her oven was on, which ignited the fumes from the bug bombs and caused a massive explosion, which blew out a wall from her apartment building. It partially collapsed and injured a dozen people. Bug bombs can be quite flammable. There's a misconception that the more bug bombs you use, the more effective they are. But only one bug bomb is needed. So guys, don't go and use 20 bug bombs on your room. Number 7, weighing people. Obviously, people keep track of how much they weigh and how much weight they've lost by weighing themselves. But when a group of obese people came together, such as in a Weight Watchers clinic, their combined weight can be heavy enough to actually cause structural failure of the building. In 2010, a group of overweight dieters lined up to see how much they weigh. In 2010, a group of overweight dieters lined up to see how much weight they had lost. But when the floor beneath them started to shake, initially, they thought it was an earthquake that was happening. But the floor underneath them was falling. Parts of the floor started to collapse. Thankfully, no one was injured, and these Weight Watchers went on another day to weigh themselves. Number 6. Captain tries to impress mistress and causes maritime disaster. The 2012 Costa Concordia disaster endangered the world when we learned that the captain had abandoned the ship, leaving the crew and the passengers to fend for themselves. Initially, it was unclear why the captain had sailed his ship so close to the island of Gilligo. However, testimony from both passengers and crew members clarified the cause. The captain had been having an affair and was trying to show off for his mistress, a dancer and tourist representative who was not supposed to be there. The captain decided to sail too close to the Gilligo statue. He invited his mistress to the bridge watch. However, he misjudged the distance between the island and the ship. A rocky outcrop ripped into the side of the ship, causing it to sink. In the ensuing chaos, 32 passengers died, and the ship was declared a total loss, all because the captain tried to impress a pretty girl. Number 5. Suspect runs from police only to be eaten by an alligator. When you're robbing homes and the police are giving chase, you run and hide. However, if you hide in the wrong place, you could end up dead. In 2015, that's what happened to Matthew Riggins in Florida. On the run from the police after robbing a string of homes, Riggins decided to hide in a lake. But the lake also contained a furious alligator, which killed Riggins. The next day, his family contacted police because Riggins was missing. By the time police found his body more than 10 days later, parts of it had been eaten. Police wandered into the lake to retrieve Riggins' body. The alligator was so vicious that it had to be euthanized. When the alligator was cut open, its stomach contained some of Reagan's flesh. Number 4, U.S. citizen goes overseas and has to illegally immigrate back home. An estimated 3 to 6 million Americans live overseas permanently. Raymond was one of those people. A former U.S. soldier who converted to Islam in 2008, Raymond lived in Colombia. In 2010, he needed a medical exam by the U.S. of A. to get a new job. But when he tried to board a plane to Texas, he was barred from the flight for no apparent reason. He lost the job opportunity and desperately wanted to get home. His first plan was to fly to Mexico and then cross the U.S. border. But the Mexican government had discovered that, and they deported him back to Colombia. His second plan was to fly to Panama and take buses throughout the Central America to the U.S.-Mexican border. But this was also fought with peril. Hostile government officials interrogated him constantly. When he finally reached the U.S.-Mexican border, interrogated by U.S. officials for hours before he was released, much like an illegal immigrant would be treated if trying to get into the U.S. Number 3, man tries to commit insurance fraud and blows up city block. In 2012, Mike Leonardo, his girlfriend, Shirley, and his half-brother, Bob, tried to get a $300,000 insurance payout by burning down their house. The first attempt failed, so they tried again. This time, they filled their house with natural gas and set a mechanism to ignite the gas. Instead of just destroying their own home, the blast was so powerful it killed 2 neighbors and brought damage to 80 other homes in the neighborhood. Prosecutors charged the 2 men with murder. The girlfriend took a plea deal and testified against her boyfriend and his half-brother. In 2015, both men were convicted of murder and arson and given life sentences. Number 2, snowboarder sneaks into a restricted area and causes an avalanche. Christian was a snowboarder who sneaked into a closed area of the Sugar Bowl ski resort in Sacramento, California in early 2016. Christian was attempting to snowboard, but instead he triggered a massive avalanche. Fortunately, he caught the whole thing on camera, as he was nearly buried alive. He claimed that he hadn't seen the signs indicating that the area was closed off. He said he just wanted to have some fun. Despite his close call with death, he was still charged with trespassing under California law. Ski resort officials claim that he would have noticed the high risk of avalanches in the area if he had checked weather conditions the day before he went snowboarding. By triggering the avalanche, Mars also endangered the life of others in the area. Others could have been buried by the avalanche. And coming in at number 1, scientist takes plankton samples and nearly causes pandemic. During the Cold War, the Soviets had an active bioweapons program and conducted various tests of biological agents in natural environments. On the island of the Aral Sea in 1971, one such test nearly caused an outbreak of a horrific form of smallpox that could have spread across the world. A Soviet scientific research ship had unknowingly sailed a ship close to the island to take plankton samples. A scientist aboard the ship became infected. After the ship had returned to the port of Arisk, she infected others. When the Soviets realized what was happening, they initially took a massive vaccine program and shut off transportation from Arisk to other parts of the Soviet Union. This prevented a potential global outbreak of horrific smallpox. 3 people died. Even those who had been vaccinated against the smallpox got mild to severe cases of the disease, which was an indication of how bad this could have been. Hello everyone. If you made it this far in the video, I just want to thank you. This was a long project for me. I appreciate you watching all the way. If you want to see more of this, be sure to like the video and comment. Tell me what you want to see. I will sure get to it. Thank you guys, and don't forget to hit the little notification button down there below the video. Thank you guys, and until next time, I will see you later.